Welcome to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. This episode is part of our Indies Introduced series, where we spotlight debut authors handpicked by booksellers from around the country. In each episode, a bookseller from the Indies Introduced panel will interview the author of a debut title featured in our program.
Hey everybody, I'm Suzanne Lucey. I am from Wake Forest, North Carolina, and I am so pleased to be on this committee that voted Alasdair Beckett-King to our to the Elite 10, who we're going to be introducing at Indies premiere in February in Denver. Alasdair is an award-winning comedian and writer. Since studying in the London Film School, he has performed critically lauded solo shows at the Edinburgh Festival Fringe, written for BBC Radio, appeared on comedy panel shows such as Mock the Week, co-written an award-winning video game, and created numerous viral sketches for social media, which I've seen and I love, including an interactive Who Done It. Alasdair Beckett-King lives in Southeast London. How are you this morning? Chip and cheerio?
I'm very, very well. Of course, it is afternoon where I am, but apart from that, everything's good.
Good. So tell us about how you came about to write this book.
Well, I was thinking back to when I was a kid, which was ages ago now, and I don't think that mystery books for kids was a huge genre. Now, I know in the States you have Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys, but they weren't in the school libraries when I was a kid here. I guess they were too American. We had the Boxcar Children. I remembered them. And we had The Falcon's Malteser by Anthony Horowitz, which is a film noir parody comedy. It was quite scary. There were real murders in it. But when I started working on the Montgomery Bonbon series, I thought I had invented a new genre. I thought, I've come up with a great idea here. Kids love murder mysteries. And of course, very, very quickly discovered that it's a now clearly well-established genre with, a lot of brilliant writers working in it. The obvious ones from a British point of view are Robin Stevens and M.G. Leonard, but there's loads of exciting stuff happening. So unfortunately, I didn't invent the genre, but I've been a fan of jokes and mysteries my whole life, and so getting a chance to squeeze those together has been really fun.
Well, some of the most popular books are coming out of London right now, too, especially Richard Osman, who's a famous comedian in the UK, as you are.
Of course, yes.
And the murder mystery.
He's a little bit more famous, but it's not important.
Oh, I don't think so. No. He's got a little bit. He's adult, but I agree. Like Agatha Christie and Hardy Boys, they're just kind of out of touch. The Bobbsey twins, too. It's like 19. I could relate to them because I thought it was my parents' generation. I don't think kids can relate to them at all as much.
When I read The Boxcar Children as a kid, I enjoyed it at the start. So it's the Depression and they're orphaned and they go and live in a boxcar, and I was on board with that. And then at the end, it turns out their uncle is alive and he's a millionaire. And I was like, nah, come on. I don't like these kids now. They're so bourgeoisie. I liked it. I liked it before.
It was, well, my son loved The Boxcar Children. And
I did read all of them. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know why I didn't like them, because I read all of them. So I guess maybe I did like them.
I think they're close to 90 years old now, too.
Wow.
So
they're holding up pretty well then, considering.
Yeah. How did you make your fun mystery series hip and collegiate while still being relevant and fun?
That is a really tricky question, because as a stand-up comedian, we cheat all the time. I don't think people realize how needy and pathetic comedians are. People think comedians are brave, but it's not true at all. If you're a comedian, you go out with new material and you're like, is this funny? And then a room full of people say yes or no. And if they say yes, you keep working on it. And if they say no, you stop saying it. And the very, very weird thing about writing fiction, but especially children's fiction, is that the audience for the book doesn't get to read it until it's too late, until it's not only is it finished, but it's actually been printed on paper and bound and shipped to places. So there's no opportunity to iterate on it. You have to rely on very talented editors and the publisher knowing their stuff. But it made me realize what incredible nerve authors must have to be able to hold your nerve all the way through, not just one draft, not just two drafts, but drafting and redrafting. Oh, yeah. And it's only in that final stage where you actually get to here, someone sends you a message on Instagram and says, "Hey, my kid really likes your book. Here's a drawing they did," and you go, "Oh, wow, that's so weird." What a huge surprise. The nice thing about it compared to comedy is nobody ever emails you to say, "My kid hated your book. Here's a drawing they did of you looking like a poo." That doesn't happen. So it is better than comedy in some ways.
It is. And I love selling books to kids because they'll say, I don't like that, just by the cover.
Yes.
Like kids are honest to a fault. And they'll say, no, I don't like that. Doesn't appeal to me. So you're huge over in England right now. And I can't wait to bring this to the United States because every single one of us on the committee, you are shoo-in. This is number one. This is like, that's how I felt.
Oh,
And
well, I'm so
everybody
glad
did
you
too.
felt that way.
Oh,
I
we
should say I'm
all
used to
did
dealing
it.
with drunk adults who are quite similar to children in that
Who
respect.
says I'm not drunk? It is 9 a.m. No, they like your books and over there. And I really can't wait to share them with, I have nieces and nephews I'm going to share this with too, just because it's so much fun and we need fun in the world. Don't you think right now it's hard?
Absolutely. And that's something that's really important to me because I'm going to say it again because there was a beep.
That's my brain.
Yes, absolutely. Fun is really important to me. I'm a comedy writer, I suppose. It still feels weird to say that. I feel kind of anxious saying that, but trying to find that balance of jokes where there's jokes in there that the kids will enjoy. There's jokes in there that maybe the parents reading the book to their kids will also enjoy. Maybe a couple of references or allusions that the older readers might pick up on. But also trying to just maintain that sense of sort of bouncy fun that carries you through really, and allows me to play with the conventions of the mystery genre. I wanted to write something that wasn't a spoof of mysteries, but was perhaps a child is picking this up having not read a mystery before, and so I get to introduce the conventions of a mystery and the way that a mystery story is structured because they're highly formulaic, and also then play with that and have a little bit of fun with that.
Yeah. Well, you did an outstanding job. Who are your biggest influencers for children's books or even adult books?
That's a really good question. Well, I mentioned Anthony Horowitz.
Yes.
And
I love him.
He's a fantastic writer for adults and more adults these days. But when I was a kid, lots of kids' books. But also,
Alex
I first
Rider.
met him. Yes,
Yes.
I first met him. Not in person. I've never met him. I first encountered his work. Have you? Oh, you're so lucky.
See, I had dinner with him. He was delightful.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
He seems like he will be delightful.
Oh, he's so kind. Yes.
I think, I don't know whether he started out writing television in the UK, but he wrote a lot of sort of blackly comic TV shows, some of them mysteries, some of them dark comedies. And I think that, we have Midsummer Murders in this country, and he adapted the books they're based on, which are a sort of very silly murder series set in rural England where everyone's plotting to poison someone or stab someone in the back. And his sort of comedic gothic scripts for the first series. He wrote something called Murder Most Horrid. So when I was a kid, when you were staying up just a little bit late and watching those things on TV, that was a way. And I know I should be giving a literary answer, shouldn't I? I shouldn't be saying, well, I watched this stuff on telly when I was a kid.
I want you to be you. That makes it real.
But one of the nice things about those things is they're a gateway. You can watch an adaptation of a mystery, and then you can find the books. You can watch an adaptation of a mystery. You can find the books. You can, I can read The Falcon's Malteser, and then I grow up and I watched The Maltese Falcon, and I got into film noir and Raymond Chandler, which obviously a different genre, sort of, but they're all connected. And Raymond Chandler's a very funny writer as well. I like Marjorie Allingham as a mystery writer. I think she's a very good writer. One of the things that always impresses me is when writers seem to know a lot about something I don't know anything about. Now, I can't tell whether they know a lot about it. Like when you watch old episodes of Frasier and they make a joke about opera, and I laugh along as if I know what they're talking about. And I don't know if it's a good opera joke, but it works. It's enough to convince me. And it's the same when she talks about art and fashion and the make of a piece of furniture. It always sounds so specific and concrete, and I'm like, whoa, she really knows a lot about the way table legs are turned or something. I don't know anything about it, but it really she builds such a sense of place that sounds so specific and really impresses me.
Yeah, you feel like you're there. I love reading
Yes,
like that. And your
exactly.
books do that. So are you a pantser or a plotter? Do you know what that is?
I had to Google it because it sounded
Okay.
like World War II weaponry to
Well,
me
it kind of is. No.
when I had that question in an email. I guess I'm a plotter because I'm an over preparer,
Okay.
but I don't think that's good. I think preparation is kind of procrastination. And what I've learned from doing comedy or from not doing comedy is that you don't learn to do things by waiting until you're ready to do them. You do have to just have a go and
That's a
then
great advice. Great
try
advice.
and get better. But I wish I could take that advice because in spite of having recognized that about myself and about the creative process, I'm still a nerdy little dweeb who has spreadsheets and diagrams and flowcharts and notes always across several different notebooks and apps and desktops and little post-it notes. And weirdly, I always find the most fun part. I've written 3.5 of these books now. The most fun part of writing it is when I haven't solved one part of it, because then as I'm writing it, I have to be the detective. I'm like, okay, so in this scene, she works something out. And I know what she works out, but I don't know how she works it out. So I just have to sit there in this chapter and look at the clues and be like, how is she going to work? And then I have to come up with an explanation that's plausible. So it's like being a real detective. I just have to stare at the clues and go, what happened in that behind that locked door? And that's a really fun part. So maybe it would be more enjoyable. Maybe the whole process would be more fun if I didn't plan any of it and just
Well,
made
you're
it up.
doing really well, so why change it? And
Why
honestly, it's
change it?
you're a pantser and a plotter. So
Yes.
you evolve from it. So I think having all those ideas and then being able to tie it together is genius. And
Oh,
you're a
thank you very
genius.
much. Well,
Yeah.
that's obviously you're a genius as well, and the listeners are all geniuses too.
Well, yes, because they read your book.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
I know you have been published in the UK for a few years. Have children ever asked you questions that you've never thought of? Like, oh, yes, I meant to put that there.
uh, there was an interesting question. A kid at a school, a girl said, "Are they scary?" And I'd been reading just a tiny bit of academic theory about mysteries, and I can't remember who I'm plagiarizing here, so I apologize. But I had to sort of be honest and go, well, yes, because I hated scary books when I was a kid. I was too scared. I didn't do horror. I love that sort of thing now, but when I was a child, I would never read a horror book. They fascinated but terrified me. I had to be honest that, look, there is a murder in the story, and it is supposed to be a little bit scary. Now, there are loads of jokes in there, and there are loads of things to make sure that the reader always feels secure and the reader always knows that the detective has got things in hand. But actually, in a mystery story, the structure of a mystery story kind of makes a promise to the reader, doesn't it? Like the nastier, the scarier the setup, the nastier the murder, the more perilous the situation. A mystery story promises you that in a few chapters' time, by the end of the book, all of this is going to be worked out. The
Yeah.
good-hearted detective with wits and intelligence and lateral thinking is going to resolve this, and we're going to find out who was responsible for this terrible crime. But it does need to be quite a terrible crime, I think. It does need to have that gothic element, which for the most part, I think children really like. When I go into schools and I say, who likes murder? They're like, well, we love murder. I'm like, no, I'm here about solving murders. And they're like, boo, no. Something that really made me smile was a friend of mine was in a cafe that's opposite my flat or apartment, to put that in American terms. She was there with her son, and he'd read the book, and so she pointed at the window of my flat, my apartment, and said to her son, "Oh, that's where Alasdair, who wrote that book you read, that's where Alasdair lives." And he looked at my flat and he said, "No, authors are rich. No, that can't be an author's flat." I think maybe a couple of authors have given a misleading impression of how wealthy.
Yes, there's probably one or two.
Maybe there's one or two.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of us in quite small flats.
Oh, yes, definitely. That's why you have to love what you do. That's why
Yes.
booksellers love what they do too, because we're not going to be millionaires. We're squeaking
Yeah.
by, but
Who needs a swimming pool?
well, yes, I want one. We're in the South here, so
Yeah, I live in South London, so it's not that we don't have the weather for it.
yeah. Well, I want a pool. I was just going to ask you, we have
Well,
so
you
many
you can have a
kids.
pool. I'm not stopping
Well,
you. Get
ask
a
my
pool.
husband about that.
You
17
deserve a pool.
years ago, we moved from Boston and I was promised a pool. That was 17 years ago. We still don't have a pool, but whatever. Working in the store, I have so many young kids, second grade, that'll come in. I want to read Stephen King. I heard it was so good. I'm like, no, we have some appropriate books for you. I can't say that word in front of them, but yeah, there are some great
Yes.
that are like horror and mystery, and that's
Horror,
what I
mystery,
gravitate to
the
right now.
gothic. Yes. There's I think I didn't read them as a child, but when I discovered the series of Unfortunate Events books, which have been so very influential, there's so much great stuff. But even like Roald Dahl stuff when I was a kid. I mean,
Oh yeah.
Roald Dahl, a brilliant writer, horrible person, but I feel somehow he channeled his unpleasant personality into some really nasty writing for kids, which has a levity to it that is nasty writing for adults doesn't have. And I still feel so warmly towards the gruesome tales.
Yes, I totally agree. So, in your scheme of things, where you have a hand in all the pots, in all the places, what do you think you're going to do going forward? Everything's
That's a really good question. I often feel terrible at this because basically I'm someone who never saw a hobby that I couldn't ruin by turning it into a job. So when I started doing stand-up, I was a film student and I was making short films and I was writing indie video games. And my thought was, why be unsuccessful in only one medium? So let's spread that out a bit. And I could understand why other children's authors might feel resentful or a bit miffed by people moving from doing comedy and publishing books. And what I tried to do for years was keep the threads of all the things I was interested in separate. But what I've discovered is they do actually feed into one another.
They do.
Like you said at the start, I did a murder mystery, an interactive murder mystery on Twitter. Sorry, I'll just clear my throat. Sorry. I said Twitter, which is the wrong name. Because they changed the name, and then I immediately choked.
I don't blame you at all.
Oh dear. Perhaps edit that out. I did a murder mystery on Twitter, as was during lockdown, I think, in the UK, which was kind of a game. It was kind of a comedy sketch. It was also a proper mystery story that I plotted out and everything, and I played all of the characters with varying degrees of success. And by bringing together the different threads of things that I was interested in, the reaction to it was really great. And in fact, it was the starting point of these books. I started talking to Walker Books, who publish the books in the UK. Of course, it's published by Candlewick in the US, and the first two books are coming out on February 25th. I just remembered to say that. February 25th, not the 25th of February, but February 25th. Right. That's how you say it.
Right after we go to Winter Institute in February in Denver.
Yes, perfect timing.
Yes.
So my feeling is, if it all stopped now and there were no more books and I couldn't do stand-up anymore, then a little bit like what happened in the pandemic, I would gladly switch to something else. I become a puppeteer or a very bad poet. I don't know. I wanted to make jokes, create stories, characters, images, ideas, those sorts of things, and I'll do it through any means I can. And I'm I feel so lucky to be able to do it in the form of kids' books, because I've been messing around with stories like this for years, and it's so nice that some of them are finally reaching an audience.
Yes, I can't wait to introduce this. I'm very excited. Well, Alasdair, I can't thank you enough for being on this with us today. I am so thankful to the ABA for introducing, I don't know, I think we read 80 books over the summer, and you are one of the top 10. I'm really happy and excited for you and to see what happens to you. So thank you so much for being on here.
Well, thank you so much for selecting me.
We all did.
And do you think it might be worth re-recording just your first line, Suzanne?
Yes, because I
slightly mispronounced my surname. I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't want to be too anxious about it.
No, I get nervous at the beginning, and then I'm okay.
It's so natural when you're asking questions. It's great.
Yeah, let's you if you want to do that,
Yes,
and then
please.
we're still recording, so I'll just splice it back to the front.
Okay.
When
Let me
you're
get
ready.
back to. Okay.
When you're
So Alasdair Beckett-King.
That's right.
See, I can do it.
You did it right every single time, apart from the first time. I think also I may have said hello in a weird tone of voice because I was thinking hello.
Oh, no.
You said my name weirdly, so
Yeah,
I might
no.
just say hello off the back of it as well, just in case that helps.
Well, I apologize because I do get nervous or I'm distracted by something and then boom. All
Oh,
right.
it's been so much fun. Thank you.
Oh yeah, you're great. You're easy to talk to.
Okay, did we get what you wanted?
No, let's.
Oh, you want to do? Okay.
Yes. So just give me a signal when you're start. Oh, you're all set. Okay. Hello, I'm Suzanne Lucey, and I own Page 158 Books in North Carolina, and I am pleased to welcome Alasdair Beckett-King, who is an award-winning comedian and writer. Since studying at the London Film School, he has performed critically lauded solo shows at the Edinburgh Festival Fringe, written for BBC Radio, appeared on comedy panels, shows such as Mock the Week, co-written an award-winning video game, and created numerous viral sketches for social media, including an interactive whodunit, which is fun. Alasdair Beckett-King lives in Southeast London.
Yes, I do. Hello, Suzanne.
Hello.
Greetings from Southeast London.
I'm so glad to have you here.
Hopefully
Is that better? Or do you want me to do it one more time?
I think that was great.
Okay.
Were you good with that, Alasdair?
Oh,
I kind of messed up with I'm trying to pronounce Edinburgh.
The Edinburgh, basically the Edinburgh Fringe is what everybody calls it.
Okay.
But it is technically called the Edinburgh Festival Fringe, and you must never call it the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, which is what everyone actually calls it.
Okay.
Because Edinburgh Festival Fringe is very hard to say, even if you pronounce Edinburgh. And if you say Edinburgh or Edinburgh, or if you say it in an American voice, it's even harder to say. So you could just say Edinburgh Fringe.
Would you mind if I do that again then? I'm so sorry.
Go for it.
Okay, I'm ready. To the Zen. All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Suzanne Lucey, and I own Page 158 Books in Wake Forest, North Carolina. And I am pleased to present to you Alasdair Beckett-King, who is an award-winning comedian and writer. Since studying at the London Film School, he has performed critically lauded solo shows at the Edinburgh Festival Fringe and written for the BBC Radio. You've appeared on comedy panel shows such as Mock the Week and co-written an award-winning video game and created numerous viral sketches for social media, including an interactive whodunit, which is so fun. Alasdair Beckett-King lives in Southeast London. Welcome,
Lovely. I appreciate the English accent on the end there. Southeast London.
Good.
Lovely.
Southeast
It was very
London.
good.
Pip, pip, and cheerio.
Thank you for listening to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app. Additional educational resources can always be found on the ABA website at www.bookweb.org. Happy reading!